Once upon a time, a very real time. In fact, a time when George Washington was still an army officer and was just thinking about becoming the first president of the United States. Two brothers were born in what is now Germany. Although they would have numerous accomplishments, they would be best known for the words that begin this paragraph, once upon a time. Throughout their lives, these brothers, Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, worked for kings and emperors, invented new ways of understanding language, and created the first modern German dictionary. We remember them mainly, however, for the fairy tales that they collected, for Snow White, Cinderella, Red Riding Hood, and others that have delighted people everywhere for over 2 centuries. These stories existed long before the Grimm brothers. Fairy tales are part of an oral tradition that is as old as human civilization. For example, ever since its first appearance in China sometime before recorded history, the story of Cinderella has been told around fires and at bedsides on every continent. Her slipper isn't always glass, and her coach isn't always made from a pumpkin. Instead, her clothes and her carriage change according to the culture in which she appears. In Egypt, her slippers are red leather, and in the West Indies, the pumpkin is replaced by a breadfruit. As with all folk tales and fairy tales, the storyteller watches the audience for signs of fading attention and adjusts the story to keep them listening. The Grimm brothers are like that storyteller, and we are like the listeners fascinated by the tale. For much of their lives, the brothers listened to other storytellers and searched through old books for folk tales that they could write down for future generations. They believed that folk tales and songs were great treasures that were in danger of being lost because fewer and fewer people remembered them. However, in gathering their collection of fairy tales, they created a treasure for more people than they could have imagined. For the tales, as the Grimm brothers retold them, became more famous than those told by anyone else, forever stamping their names and the words "once upon a time" in hearts and minds all over the world. The lives of Jacob and Wilhelm are themselves a story of two brothers who grew up almost like twins. Their bond was so remarkable that they spent most of their lives together. As young boys, they shared a room and studied and played together. Sent away to school and later university, they roomed together. In fact, for most of their lives, the brothers worked and lived together. Even after Wilhelm was married, Jacob lived with him and his wife. Wilhelm's son Hermann would later say that the brothers had one house, one library, one purse. If their story is a story of friendship, it is also a story of courage and hard work. They had to struggle against poverty and sickness. They had to watch as foreign soldiers captured their city. They were made to face hardships when they stood up for what they believed. They had to deal with sorrow as people they dearly loved died. But with their struggles came much joy. They became friends with many of the great writers and artists of the German kingdoms, where they lived all their lives. They worked beside kings in peace and in war. They became national heroes and gained the respect of writers and scholars all over the world. At the celebration of what would have been Jacob's 100th birthday, a German scholar said that while great learning quite often leads to pride, self-satisfaction, and jealousy, that didn't happen in the case of Jacob and Wilhelm. Instead, at the top of their life and fame, they remained simple, good men who sympathized with children as well as with statesmen and poets.